Nebraska's 2024 season is in the rearview mirror. So in today's video, it's finally time to give my full analysis of every coach on the Huskers coaching staff, from Matt Rhule to our coordinators to our positional coaches. I'm going to give every single one of them a grade in my complete, honest take on what they did well, what they failed at, and so much more. So really quick, hit that like button if you're fired up about the offseason, getting some recruiting going. I know I am. And also, if you're a diehard Nebraska fan, you're unsubscribed, it would help me a lot. Please hit that subscribe button for daily Husker football content from January to next December. Please hit that subscribe button. But without further ado, let's get into it, going over my full analysis of Nebraska's 2024 coaching staff from Matt Rhule all the way down. We'll save Matt Rhule in the back half of this video, but I want to get things started talking about the coordinators. First off, the offensive coordinator situation. So both Marcus Satterfield and Dana Holgorsen. Let's talk about Marcus Satterfield, right? You guys already know what the evaluation is going to be to start off this video. Marcus Satterfield, one of the worst offensive coordinators when he was the offensive coordinator in all of college football. He failed at a multitude of things. I thought his game playing was really, really bad. His situational awareness was horrendous. You know, we go back to that Colorado game. We dominated the first half of that ball game. And after that, you think, okay, you want to really put the nail in the coffin against Colorado. You're up 28-0. Let's, be aggressive in that second half. Let's run up the score. That's not what Marcus Satterfield did. He completely changed up the game plan. He went completely conservative. So his play calling was horrendous. I thought his game planning was really, really bad. It was very easy to figure out. His play concepts were not great. He'd run these play actions from time to time that would be super long developing, except our wide receivers can't beat man coverage. So almost every single time, Raiola would throw the ball away or he'd get sacked. Again, his red zone play calling was horrendous. Nebraska never scored in the red zone, never got a touchdown. I thought, in general, he was not a great offense coordinator because nobody really believed in him. I remember, watching Chasing 3 in the offseason, and Tony White's giving a speech to the defense. And the defense is getting riled up, goosebumps, ready to run through a wall. Marcus Satterfield comes in there, tries to give a speech to the offense, trying to hype them up. It was crickets, man. Like, he just couldn't hype up anybody. That's part of being an offensive coordinator, is to have those boys rally behind you. Marcus Satterfield is not a good coordinator. I believed he shouldn't have been our OC going into this year. Matt Rhule made a big mistake bringing him back. It's good that he reversed that and fired him mid-year, brought him down to that tight end coach spot, and then replaced him with Dana Holgorsen. So Marcus Satterfield, you guys already know, he gets an F grade. Was one of the reasons Nebraska didn't win more football games. We could have won a lot more if it weren't for Satterfield. We could have won that Ohio State game. We could have won that UCLA game. We could have won that Illinois game. So we could have arguably had 10 wins this season if it weren't for Satterfield, but it is what it is. He gets an F. Now let's get to Dana Holgorsen, who was our offensive coordinator with 4 of the last games. Again, that Iowa game, Wisconsin game, USC game, and then, of course, the Boston College Bowl game. Dana Holgorsen, in my opinion, gets a solid C-plus grade. Dana Holgorsen, although he wasn't put in the best situation, obviously he was trying to learn this offense on the fly, I don't think he really impressed too much as our offensive coordinator, right? And I'm not saying he's not going to be good next year. I think Dana Holgorsen is going to be a great offensive coordinator for Nebraska for the foreseeable future, but he wasn't necessarily impressive, right? USC, we only scored 13 offensive points and we lost that football game. Our play concepts looked a lot better. I thought they got Emmett Johnson going a lot more. I thought Donny Raiola, his arm really was highlighted a lot better in that offense, but USC, the offense struggled once again. Okay, whatever, he gets the benefit of the doubt. Wisconsin, we know what Wisconsin was, complete domination, 44 points, shout out to Holgorsen. Iowa, we incredibly struggled. We only put up 10 points on offense, a lot of missed opportunities once again. Just couldn't get anything going in that second half. Wasn't great performance by Holgorsen. And then you were going into that Boston College game and you're expecting Nebraska to kind of dominate against an inferior team, and you really only put up 20 points in that one as well. So, again, it's not Dana Holgorsen's fault. He's still learning the offense, but it wasn't like this necessarily impressive performance from a play calling standpoint, from a schematic standpoint. I think Dana Holgorsen is going to be a great coordinator. C+ is still a good grade, but he just didn't knock anybody's socks off. So it's really hard to evaluate him. It's tough to even give him a grade. In my opinion, he probably shouldn't receive one just because he's only been here for like a month and a half. But Dana Holgorsen, C+ grade, you'll take that. Then I want to get to Tony White, defensive coordinator, no longer with Nebraska. He's also going to get a C plus grade. The highs were high. That Colorado game was a high. The UTEP game was a high. The Wisconsin game was a low. You gave up 24 points or 25 points that continuously came back in that one. The Iowa game was a high. I thought the defense played phenomenal besides one play where Caleb Johnson went to the house. So again, it was a battle. It was a roller coaster battle with Tony White, right? He'd have a game where he'd be really good, like the Ohio State game. Should have won that one. And then there would be a game where it was really bad and you got absolutely boat raced like Indiana. So again, Tony White, C plus grade just because it was super inconsistent, but the highs were there and he did enough in a lot of ball games for us to win. We just didn't capitalize. He did enough in the Iowa game. He did enough in the USC game. He probably did enough in that Illinois game as well. It wasn't his fault we didn't win as many games as we should have. It was probably the offenses. But Tony White still gets a C plus. I think he's a good defensive coordinator. Again, you wish him the best of luck at Florida State. Now I want to run through our positional coaches. Quarterbacks coach Glenn Thomas, I believe it's really hard to evaluate him. His first year with the Huskers, I'm just going to give him a straight B. I thought what he did with Dylan Raiola and his progression over the season was pretty decent. Again, obviously Dylan Raiola was not the player that we thought he was going to be. Struggled this year, threw a bunch of interceptions, but I thought Dylan continuously got better throughout the season. I thought Hoiberg showed a lot of development as well as our backup. So honestly, I thought Glenn Thomas did his job. Decent in the recruiting aspect too. Locked down TJ Lateef. Got Marcos Davila from the portal, so that should obviously be assessed. I think it gets just a straight B. If you were an A coach, probably Raiola would have been better. But I thought Raiola continued to develop throughout the year. His progressions got better. He really got up to the speed of the game. He looked more comfortable back there. So he gets a B. Obviously, some room for improvement next year. EJ Barthel, in my opinion, just gets a C grade. Nothing incredibly impressive from EJ Barthel. And when Dana Holgorsen got to Nebraska, he said that the running backs really struggled shooting through the gaps. I think our running backs developed. Like Emmett Johnson, I thought was better than he was last year. Of course, Dante Dowdell completely was a better player than what he was at Oregon last year. But there were some question marks with him, again, shooting through the gaps, being aggressive. I thought some situational awareness between the running backs, like Dante Dowdell. He was at the goal line one time. We were at the 2-yard line, and he dived over the pile to try to get to the end zone. You don't do that when you're at the 2-yard line, and it really cost the team. And we ended up not getting that touchdown. We had a couple fumble issues from time to time in that running back room. So EJ gets, just a C+, but I think his recruiting is pretty good for the Huskers. He is bringing in all of these East Coast guys. That's pretty much the only reason they're coming to Nebraska is because of EJ Barthel. He's been good in the running back recruiting market as well, bringing in Jamarian Parker and Connor Booth. So he gets a C+, nothing more, nothing less. Wide receivers coach Garrett McGuire, F. Let's move on. They're no longer with Nebraska. Let's not beat a dead horse here. DeKel Shorts, really good hire for the Huskers. You feel good about that. But Garrett McGuire, he gets an F. Just the wide receivers were a complete failure. Tight end coach Marcus Satterfield, we already talked about him as the OC, but as a tight ends coach wasn't great either. Fedoni just never broke out. Borkature was okay, Lindenmeyer was okay, but I don't think he's a great tight end coach. Let's just give him a C there. O-line coach Donny Raiola. It's tough to say because the offensive line, once again, had their highs and they had their lows. I thought they were really, really good in that Wisconsin game. But that Iowa game, they really struggled. Again, we gave up that sack right at the end there. That really lost us the football game. So I thought they were really good in the running game, particularly. The pass pro was also pretty impressive, specifically in that Boston College game. They really didn't give up any pressure against Boston College. So I actually think Donny Raiola is a pretty decent O-line coach. I'm going to give him a B+ for this year. I think his recruiting's been pretty decent as well. It's not been awesome, but it's been pretty decent. Got a couple 4-stars in the 24 and 25 class. D-line, Terrence Knighton, no longer with Nebraska. I'm going to give Terrence Knighton an A. I think Terrence Knighton just continued to do what he's always done, develop guys at a high level. Ty Robinson had the best year of his Husker career by far, thanks to Terrence Knighton. I thought Nash, although wasn't as good as 2023, he continued to develop at a really high level. He's probably going to be an NFL draft pick. Jamari Butler had the best year as a Nebraska Cornhusker. Wasn't the year we expected, no, but he still was a pretty decent player. The depth was phenomenal once again. I thought Elijah Judy developed really, really good compared to last year. Keona Davis as a true freshman was solid. So Terrence Knighton gets an A. Obviously, really tough to lose him to Florida State, but I got to call it like it is. He was an A. Linebackers coach Rob Dvorcek, I'm also going to give an A. Listen, John Bullock developed at a very high level. He was, I believe, third on our tackle list this year. Had multiple big-time fourth down stops for the Huskers. That was very clutch. But Buda Wright was also really good coming out of injury. Vincent Shavers as a true freshman was one of the best we've seen in a long time. Stephon Thompson provided good depth on the bench. So I was actually really impressed with our linebackers. I also thought, we're talking about MJ Sherman. MJ Sherman was also pretty solid. So I thought Rob Dvorcek had a really good year. People aren't giving him as much credit as he deserves, so I'm going to give him an A. As for the secondary, it's hard to grade John Butler as our secondary coach. I'm just going to give him a C. It's tough to grade him because he got here in July, right? Really wasn't too accustomed with the secondary, but the secondary struggled, right? We had a bunch of injuries in that room, but they did not come up clutch when it mattered. They really struggled in that USC game and the UCLA game. Gave up big play after big play. Hartzog had a tough year. Singleton had a tough year. We just didn't have a good corner play outside of Sear, right? So it's tough to grade John Butler because he was only here for a little bit. Now he's our defensive coordinator, but he gets a C on the year. Ed Foley, no longer with Nebraska. He gets an F. You guys already knew that. All right, my grade for Matt Rhule on the year, I'm just going to give him a B-. I'm going to give him a B-, and I think that's a fine grade. It was not an A-plus year. It really, really was not. Okay, if you wanted it to be an A-plus year, you would have potentially been in the mix for the playoffs. You would have been, a 10-win team. We did not do a lot of things good this year. We really did. We should have lost some more games. We probably should have won a couple more games. We once again couldn't win those close ones. Had a bunch of one-score losses. We had a bunch of timeout issues. We had a bunch of clock management issues. So I thought Matt Rhule failed in that standpoint that he did once again in 2023. But, Matt Rhule, the one objective I had going into this year was, can he make a bowl game? Can he, spark some change in Nebraska, have an upward trajectory? And I think he did just that. 7 wins. It's not awesome. It's not, it doesn't knock your socks off, but it's a good step in the right direction. And I thought he showed growth in that Wisconsin game. I thought that was a pretty good game plan. I think from a game planning standpoint, he's not the best in the world. We've already known that, right? That's not an absurd take. He's not the best game planner head coach. When you go up against some good Big Ten coaches, they're better at game planning. They're better at getting prepared. And that showed in the Iowa game. That showed in the USC game. We got outcoached in the UCLA game against a brand new head coach over there. So I thought Matt Rhule, again, he's still developing as a coach. He's still getting used to this roster. There was a lot of bad. There was a lot of good. You kind of got to meet me right down the middle there with a B-. I think that's a very fair grade, but I think making it to the bowl game was a good step in the right direction. He's been solid on the recruiting front. He's shown development as a coach. He's, admitted his mistakes. He's took accountability. He's done all the right things. You just got to lead it to wins next year. But a B-, pretty solid grade. All right, guys, that is my full evaluation of Nebraska's coaching staff. We're going to go over my full evaluation of Nebraska's offseason pretty soon here, transfer portal, new coaches, and so much more, so watch out for that video. Let me know down below your grades for every single coach on Nebraska's coaching staff in the comment section. Hey, if you made this far in the video, hit that like button and subscribe. It would help me out greatly. As always, folks, go be grad, go Matt Rhule, and see you in the next one.